friends. Welcome back to library. So we continue with Lions and Liars, and we're going into chapter 21, Teeth of the Storm. And as you recall, Aunt Bite and Frederick are leaving the main building at camp, and they're going to the boat. And I don't know if this is a safe idea, if they're even going to make it there because the wind and the rain is falling so ferociously. So let's find out. Frederick waded forward, his arms linked with Antbite's. About 4 seconds after they had gotten off the front porch, the happy, glowy feeling in his chest had been replaced by a please don't let me die feeling. The two boys bowed their heads together and hunched their shoulders against the wind. The water rose up to Frederick's knees, and even higher on Antbite. A current pulled at Frederick's legs, and the wind blasted against him. He put his foot down, and the ground seemed to fall away from him. He staggered, barely staying upright. With the next step, he staggered again. The water was getting deeper. Through his panic and fear, he slowly realized what this meant. They were going downhill. Downhill was not good in a flood. He was about to shout a warning, but he felt a tug as Antbite's arm unhooked from his. Then Antbite was falling. Frederick yelled and grabbed. The only part of Antbite he could reach was his face. Teeth closed hard on one of Frederick's fingers. Ah! Frederick shouted. The wind carried his yell into the night. He had a grip on one ear and Antbite's jaw, and he grabbed Antbite up by these handles. Antbite got his feet under him. He pushed Frederick's hand away from his mouth, grabbing Frederick's arm to steady himself. The flashlight which Antbite had been holding was gone. You're okay, Frederick said. Rain ran down his face. He held on to Antbite and thought about bending down to see if he could find the flashlight. It must be on the ground nearby. The current wouldn't have carried it too far. And then he heard a sound. He looked around. A dark shape seemed to be sweeping through the woods between them and the main building. Frederick didn't. Boom! A swell of water reached Frederick's armpits. The ground shook. The shock waves rippled through Frederick's body like he was a giant tuning fork. He reached out one shaking hand, and his fingertips brushed across papery bark. One of the towering pine trees had fallen, landing 6 inches from where Frederick and Antbite were huddled. Oh my gosh, they were very lucky. Boom! The sound came from farther away. Then again, boom! Trees were falling all around them. For a moment, Frederick was frozen. Then he grabbed a fistful of Antbite's t-shirt. Run! He shouted over the storm. Run! 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 They ran, holding onto each other's arms, pushing through the water, dragging each other forward. They reached the boat faster than should have been possible. The boat dipped and scraped against the trees as Antbite reached up, gripped the edge of the hole, and then scrambled up and over. Frederick held on to the edge of the boat. He couldn't climb as well as Antbite. The side of the boat was a vertical wall that was slick with water, and the wind was trying to tear him away from it. He pulled himself up but fell back at once, his arms giving out. Frederick adjusted his feet. If he could just get a good jump off the ground, or if he had something to climb up on. Come on, Antbite yelled. Don't let go. Both of these were things Frederick had already thought of. He braced his foot against one of the trees the boat had caught in and pushed off. He got almost high enough to see into the boat, and then he fell back into the water. Frederick shouted in frustration, his heart hammered. Antbite leaned back to balance the boat and gripped Frederick's arms, yelling through his teeth. Frederick heaved himself up with all his strength. Antbite's hands scrabbled frantically, pulling the back of the jersey. Then he grabbed the belt loop of the back of Frederick's shorts and yanked, hauling Frederick up with more strength than he could possibly possess in his thin arms. Frederick inched up the side of the boat, and his shorts inched up his backside. Okay, stop, Frederick yelled. Stop! Antbite didn't stop. He kept pulling on Frederick's shorts until Frederick splashed into the boat, panting and shaking. He gasped in relief, but that feeling lasted only a second. In his scramble to get into the boat, Frederick had dislodged it from where it was wedged in the trees. Now the wind was pushing them across the water, sending them ricocheting off tree trunks. Each crash jarred Frederick's body. He clung to the seat to brace himself. The boat's full of water, Antbite yelled. It was true. Frederick hadn't noticed it immediately, because he was so soaked that it almost didn't matter. But he was kneeling in the bottom of the boat in a pool of water. He turned his face to Antbite, not able to see his expression in the dark. That's because it's raining in it, he yelled, and it was obvious to him now that this would be a problem. Frederick looked down at the water around his legs. Scoop! Antbite yelled. Scoop! Scoop! And he cupped his hands together and flung water out of the boat. For a moment, Frederick didn't move. With a sinking feeling, he watched as Antbite working against the rain, splashing water out of the runaway boat. Then he frantically started scooping water with his hands and flinging it over the side. Oi. So here we go, friends. They're in the boat. The boat became dislodged, so now it's just bouncing around on the fallen trees, the up trees, in the water that keeps getting deeper as the rain keeps falling. Stay tuned for next chapter, my friends.